only time I ran was to burn calories because I was beating myself up that I binge ate. Like I had an eating problem. And I wasn't very kind to my body. And that's a whole other story because I think that when I share my story of MS and people ask me, well, how did you heal? Because I never say I cured because, an MRI is still going to show a few lesions in there. But anyways, I say the happier I got, the healthier I got. And the happier got meant I started making choices for myself aligned with me and for the right reasons.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth Heals podcast. I am your host, Ryan Anthony, and today we have a very special guest. We have Carlyn Shaw. Carlyn Shaw, she is a founder of Strangers to Friends, and she's a very active person traveling all over the world. Today, she's coming from
New Zealand.
New Zealand, and welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Before we even get started to the actual interview, let's start off and just chill because for like the past 30 minutes, something was happening with your computer. Can you talk a bit about the
Well,
frustration?
we don't need to spend I will let you know one thing about me or the one thing about how I live life. There is no meaning to anything unless you give it meaning. So there's no story unless you allow it to be a story. So the story was my computer it updated on its own last night and now it's not working. I have a choice whether to allow that to frustrate me. I have a choice whether to allow myself to get stuck in that story. Or we just breathe and I go, hey, I think I can do Zoom on my phone. Let's figure out a way to set it up so that you can see me properly. So right now we're not going to focus on the laptop that has a life of its own because that is a negative vibration. And I would rather because I'll deal with it when I deal with it. But yes,
No.
no one likes computer issues.
No, but the great thing is that you're very quick at finding solutions and you're very quick at helping people smile and finding the positivity. So that's what I
Yes,
I really loved. And we had a little bit of a pre-talk and it started
a
getting really,
realness.
yeah, it's really great, even during the chaos, but there's able to find that realness and that positivity. And real quick, we went back and I asked you if you knew Rena, and you asked me
So
who's Rena?
a lot about me is and we can like share more about this later, but when I initially started Strangers to Friends, it was my way of personifying, like bringing to life the concept of synchronicity. So I don't know if you know what synchronicity is or if your listeners might know, but synchronicity is this awareness that nothing is coincidence, that there in the universe everything is connected, um and we're all connected in ways that we often do not see unless we have awareness and we're open to it. But everything is connected. And so Strangers to Friends is this knowing that when I share my stories, I give permission to other people to share their stories. And then we see how we're all connected in the ways that we never would have discovered if we weren't brave enough, confident enough, worthy enough, all these different things that get us to just be our true selves, right? So, because we should all be that way, because then
Yes.
that's how we all heal. So, um, I love going back to what you just said is we just found our synchronicity without even know I didn't even know we had synchronicity. So we share a friend in common, but the cool thing is you're like, didn't Rena introduce us for this show? And I'm like, I just wasn't prepared. When you said Rena, I wasn't thinking about her. So it caught me off guard because I didn't realize we had a mutual friend, but this is how we're all connected. I saw your post on Threads inviting people to join you on the show if they had a like a healing story to share, and that's a part of my journey. It's self-healing with MS and some of my other stories. And but Rena is a friend of mine and I've been a guest on her show, because a lot of my story involves the loss of my front teeth 10 years ago in an accident and my healing journey and these shirts. And Rena's daughter, it was really cool. Like, not only was I a guest on her podcast, but her daughter has a fear of the dentist. So, like, she had to go in for cavities and to have teeth work done. And they literally called me on the way to the dentist so that I could give her like a little pep talk of why not to be scared and like, because I have my own little tricks, like, okay, this is just my own little things. And then they called me after that. So she and I have our own little special friendship, even though I was a guest on her podcast. So it is gonna be fun to tell her I connected with you.
So it's funny because I listened to her podcast. Shout out to Rena. It's Better Call Daddy. So I listened to a bunch of episodes, and I was driving, and she was sending me some messages, and I had to leave a voice message saying, "Hey, I'm listening to a podcast right now. I'm driving, but I'm listening to an episode of someone who had uh, issues with the dentist," and then she sent me back another like voice message saying, "Oh my God, that's Carlyn Shaw." So that's why in my mind I was thinking,
That's
"Oh, she was the one who connected us," but no, it was all.
what a big small world. That see, that's what I'm saying. Synchronicity is the knowing the universe is already conspiring to bring things to life for us. So there, that was already like in the seeds somehow were planted and we didn't even know it.
No, so when you messaged me, I was thinking, "Oh yeah, I just heard you on Better Call
That's
Daddy." So
so,
in my mind, I was thinking that Rena was the one who connected us.
oh
So
my gosh, that's so funny that you already heard my story and now here I'm the one that reached out to you to be a guest on your show. How about them apples, right?
so welcome to the podcast, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you're here.
Me too.
So
On and just so your listeners know, it is 11 a.m. on Monday here. And what time is it where you are?
over here, shoot, it is. Let me see. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. It's 4:16 p.m. on a Sunday.
So I am your future.
You are my
And your
future. Yes,
and I'm Monday at 11 a.m. So your future looks bright.
I love it. I love it. So, well, thank you for being here. Thank you for also bringing this positive energy. And before we really get started, to start this, um, I wanted to ask you, were you always with this positive energy and this radiance? And
Mm.
if not, uh, can you share what was life like before you carry this positivity?
The answer is no. I was not always like this. This has become me through my journey. This is the other side of the self-love journey. So I would say I've always been a very friendly, outgoing, curious kid. I was also, but I wasn't like the most popular, but I had a lot of friends, but I was more of a follower than a leader, I think. I didn't play group sports and stuff. I kind of like rode my bike more and kind of did stuff like that. And I would say I really struggled just, we all have awkward, like youthful years. And I struggled a lot with body image. I struggled just with my confidence on being enough. I was more of a people pleaser. And so I was on the outside, I would say I looked the part and I was really friendly. And I mean, I was well liked but I'd say internally I didn't match the outside the same way. And then where the things started shifting was when I was 19 years old, which is, you're not a kid, but you're not an adult. It's kind of like in between age. That's the year that like my big story started. And so I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was a sophomore in college at Indiana University. So that's a massive thing to happen. At the time, there was no Google invented yet. So all this started happening, I was 1997, and so you couldn't just like go online and look for stuff or find people like you. So while I'm navigating all of that, within the 8 months after that, like So I was diagnosed October 97, November 97, one of my best friends died, and then July 98, my other best friend died. Like one friend called to tell me one died and then she died. So it was crazy. I buried both my best friends next to each other during a whole year where I was even questioning my own health, you know? So my life got kind of rocked
Yeah.
and I had no one to to say the least, you know. And this was at a time where nobody really knew how to. Everybody wanted to be supportive, but what could anybody do? Like these were some heavy, real things, and I went through. This is where like my personal metamorphosis began because I recognized like it was up to me on how I was going to allow this to shape me or define me or break me or make me or all these things. And I didn't consciously go out into the world like, okay, we're going to tackle this. But I saw the difference between the glass half full and the glass half empty and the what ifs and the why nots and the why me's and the shouldas and the couldas and the wouldas. And I'm just so grateful that I internally knew to find the optimism to be open to it not being the end of things, to be open to go, well, I had paralysis on my left leg for a little bit. I had numbness, I had blindness, but it came back and I'm good now. So I guess what this means is doesn't mean it's forever, but I just learned that I'm not invincible. So maybe I should take this whole life thing a little more seriously. Maybe I should push myself a little more. Maybe I should be a little more open. Maybe, you know, just like, okay, my perspective changed. And then with the loss of my friends, I mean, losing your friends at that age is way harder than you being, I mean, that's your life. That's your
Yeah.
everything, you know? And so um I was really sad and really depressed. And again, in college. And I had never thought about traveling, studying abroad. I had heard other people do it, but like it just wasn't a thing I'd thought about. It wasn't a thing my friends were doing from South Carolina. Everyone just like, it was a big deal. I left the state to go to college, let alone like I was going to go, you know. But I learned about it and I was like, I realized for myself, I needed to remove myself from where I was because simmering in the space of people being unsure how to talk to me about certain things and like it was just I didn't know how to be me. I didn't know who I was. And so without asking permission, I just applied. I was like, well, I only speak English. Where can I go? So I applied to go to school in London for a semester and I got accepted. And I looked at the cost and I was an out of state and it really wasn't like that much difference, to be honest. And I'm very fortunate that I had some that my family was I said this is what I think I need for myself and my family stepped in and they said okay we support you because we want to help we just don't know how to help and so much magic ended up showing up like here I was come like so much bad happened and then fast forward to my birthday in 1999 and I just turned 21 and I'm an American in Ireland. My birthday's March 15th. It was St. Patrick's Day weekend. I fly to freaking Dublin. What American white girl's dream is not having a Guinness in Dublin on St. Patrick's Day for her 21st birthday week? And there I was with a little t-shirt with like lambs all over it with like an Irish flag in my hand, right? Again, no proof of this because there was no internet or social media or anything. So it's all good. And I had what some people call a download, an aha, an epiphany, whatever you want to call it. I had this visceral moment come over me where I was just like, oh my God, I am so grateful. I I'm living a dream that I didn't even know was possible and none of it would have happened. I wouldn't be here. I get chills even now telling this. I'm like, I wouldn't be here if Margaret and Meredith hadn't died. Like I just, or because that was even hard. Like I said, the MS was hard, but when you're that age, like I wasn't even that, more people, I tell people my MS story is different because I didn't have time to focus on it. I was more concerned. I was more because of my friend's passing, I was more upset with that than even the MS. Most people get a disease and then focus on that, and that's gonna could maybe make it gives the energy to it a little different. I just didn't wasn't putting my energy into it. But anyways, once you know that, you can't unknow that feeling. Once you know that there's silver linings really do exist. Once you know that good things can come out of bad things. And once you realize that you have the power to do, no one did it for me. I did it all myself. I was only 21 years old when that happened. Little did I know that was just the beginning of me having lots of stories where I would have to decide, how am I going to respond to this? Do I let it break me or do I let it make me? You know? And then over the years, and then like it came down to the story, I was, a lot of people I realized had like shame or embarrassment around, I don't want to tell people I have MS, like what do people judge me? I was like, I didn't, why would I need to tell my professors that I have this. Like, what if I miss class? Like, I don't want to be in trouble later. So I would
Mhm.
just go to my professors first day of school, like, hey, I got this in case I'm late or in case I miss it. Like, and everyone's like, you're so brave for like sharing. I'm like, why wouldn't I share it? It's not like I asked for this. And so I didn't understand people's concepts of like the hiding of themselves. And I recognized when I showed up and was myself, I was somehow making other people feel safe to do the same. Like it was kind of like a, I always like, and it's just like, I wasn't trying to be inspirational. I was just being me. And the more I did that, the more I felt the ripple effect from it for myself and how good it felt just to be it. And then it's just become my life. And I've just recognized the power we all have. And so I'm human though. I have
Yeah.
really bad days. In fact, bipolar runs in my family. I mean, I have definitely struggled with depression over the years. Um, I, I've just learned myself. And I just always have to remember, Carlyn, you know how this works. You know how this works. You know this is leading you to something. You know there's a lesson in this. You know there's something bigger at play. You just gotta know you're in the middle of it, you're in the thick of it, and you gotta get through it, but you're gonna come out the other side, and then you get to go, well, that was a good game.
So something that
Yeah.
you've mentioned during this these ups and downs that you've been through is the awareness of self-love and also the awareness of sometimes you need to push a little harder at times. What was it that you think might have helped to anchor you in this thinking? Because, even me, there have been times where I said,
Mm.
forget this. I'm just gonna stay in my room and just give up. And I've had those moments in time, moments in life where it just feels like just give up and just see what happens. But it's more focused towards the negative. Here in
Mm.
your example, in your journey, the example that I'm hearing is yes, there are hard moments, but let's wait because positive is going to come. Now, my curiosity is, where do you find that anchor?
I don't know because it's all come from within. I've been asked like who my role models are or who my I've you know who my I don't have anybody actually. I've read books over the years that have kind of inspired me, but I think I look at life as just one big choice. And it's kind of and I feel like it's kind of like a movie or a game or something. And it is all up here. It's literally up here. And I will just say to myself, okay, Carlin, you do. Like when I was diagnosed with MS, I just kept saying to myself, your story is not to be in a wheelchair. Your story is not to be in a wheelchair. Your story is not, you're not going to be in a wheelchair. It's not your story. It's not your story. I just kept saying that to myself. It's not gonna be I was like, I'd like to have conversations with myself. Like, you're not on this planet. That is not your story. That's someone else's story, and that's okay. It's not a bad story, but that's not your story. And so I would I think it's like a personal, because they're the days I'm trying to think how to explain, like the days that I don't get out of bed, because I don't get out of bed every day. The days I'm crying, the days, and it's been even just being out here in New Zealand, the holidays were rough. I felt I went. It was just different. Everybody's on a different time zone. I was over here, and I didn't know anybody here, and the weather wasn't good, and I didn't know where I was, and it was just feeling like I just felt out of sorts, and I just felt disconnected, and I just was like not. There was nothing bad happening. I just wasn't feeling good, and I was having a pity party for myself, you know. And I go and I have these moments where I'm creating a story that doesn't really exist, you know? And all I can say is Christmas here sucked. And I went to bed that night and I said to myself, guess what, Carlin? Tomorrow is Christmas in America. So guess what? You get a whole new Christmas tomorrow. You get a redo day. And even though I'm not religious, like I'm actually Jewish, I was raised Jewish. Like I don't even, but the holidays are the holidays.
Yeah.
And I just made up a new story in my head where I was like, today's actually your Christmas. And that doesn't make any sense for me to do that, but I posted it even on social media. I was like, hey, it's my redo day. And I just gave myself permission to have a redo day. And I think that's so much of it is we have to give ourselves permission to feel the ick and not but not get stuck in the ick. And you know, friends that if whether it's reaching out to friends, I mean, a lot of times I know my people I can reach out to and say, I'm in some ick. I need to talk, you know? So I do have people I can count on. Um, I'll find, you know, I love me some Mel Robbins. I mean, there's certain people that I'll turn to and I'll turn on their stuff and I'm like, okay, Mel, let me hear it. I just got to hear it, you know. I got to 5 4 3 2 1 it. The other when I first got here, I wanted to learn the bus system. And it's not that I was intimidated by the bus system, but I kind of was, but I wasn't, but I kind of was, but I wasn't, you know. But I learned of this one brewery and I thought they were going to have reggae music and I knew what time it started and I saw my Google telling me that the bus left at this time and I'm just laying there. I'm just laying there and I just said, Carlin, if you don't 5 4 3 2 1 this right now, you are not getting on a bus and you are not going to hear this music and then you're going to feel bad about it tomorrow. And that's exactly what I did. I literally in 15 minutes, I threw on clothes. I like whatever, and boom, and I got to that bus stop. And then I felt amazing. Not just because amazing, because I followed through for myself. Like I did it, whether it was a big thing or not. I didn't even care if the music even wasn't that good. But it's those little moments. Like I think we need to celebrate the little teeny breakthroughs and not put so much pressure. Like you see memes going around, like I'm an adult, like I had a great day. I got out of bed. Okay, we have to actually celebrate that sometimes. You know, the meaning these shirts, there's a lot of different messages behind this shirt. Whoever smiles first wins. But the biggest message of it all is when you smile for yourself, you've already won. Because that is the hardest part.
Yeah, and something that I wanted to bring up from listening to all that you've said is the power of storytelling to oneself. Because going back and you were talking about uh, telling yourself you need to get up. I need to get up right now, get on that bus because if not, this and this is going to happen. Also, when you brought up the example of your MS and you're telling yourself my story is not to be in a wheelchair. It's something more. I think that's something that's very key that I'm hearing from your story is that awareness of the
Mm,
story that you're in, because I think sometimes for myself I can be in the story but I'm not aware that I was like
mm.
I'm in it, and then it's like aware that okay, there is a next chapter. There's going to be future chapters, but I can do something about the future chapters right now by
Oh, look at
how
them goosebumps.
oh. But going back to that storytelling to oneself, I wanted to go back to the wheelchair, and you telling yourself, Carlin, this is not my story. to be in the wheelchair. That's not how it's going to go. And I know a bit of your story, and it's not going that way. There's actually, uh,
It's the opposite.
it's the opposite. Can you share about that?
I mean, just so I would, like I said, I was, the only time I ran was to burn calories because I was beating myself up that I binge ate. Like I had an eating problem. And I wasn't very kind to my body. And that's a whole other story because I think that when I share my story of MS and people ask me, well, how did you heal? Because I never say I cured because, you know, an MRI is still going to show a few lesions in there. But anyways, I say the happier I got, the healthier I got. And the happier got meant I started making choices for myself aligned with me and for the right reasons. And so with this MS journey, it's all been this it's been this like perfectly one step after another thing. And my when I first graduated college and I moved to Dallas, Texas, and my very first job was at a radio station. I was doing advertising sales. I was selling air. Don't ever Worst job ever to go into is your first job. But anyways, I learned a lot. My company, as synchronicity should have it, because this was before I really knew people with it. It wasn't, again, now it's like 2000, but it was still kind of a taboo thing, you know? My company ended up being a sponsor for the MS 150 bike ride. And this was the first time I was learning that, oh my gosh, there are people out there, A, doing something active, and B, fundraising for my disease. And there's a whole team of people that have it that are doing it. And I hadn't even met anybody my age, or I had not met people with it. So this guy came to my office to talk about it. And I went up to him later. I was like, tapped him on the shoulder. I was like, so I never like talked to people about this, but like I have MS and maybe I can be on your team, you know? And sure enough, that's literally how my whole journey started. And before I knew it, I was on TV representing the team, like talking about getting involved. I bought my first bike. I did the MS 150. I realized like I can do this, you know? And then I moved to San Diego and my dad was involved. My dad was one of the first people in the United States to ever do the 3-day 50-mile walk for MS. He's did it 17 years in a row.
Wow.
And I saw my dad, yeah, I saw my dad did it. And then I moved to San Diego and I learned they have that. You could do that in San Diego. I was so naive, but so committed and so excited to do it. I didn't know I was supposed to form a team. I just showed up completely by myself and did the 50-mile, 3-day walk for MS. And then my friends were like, everyone else had like these big teams they were walking with. And then I met other people. So within 4 years, I was the team captain of my own MS 3-day walk team. And I named my team Team Optimistic for the M and the S capitalized in optimistic for the MS story. And then I challenged myself one day to run a half. I was running and I challenged myself to I actually was a smoker for 15 years. So when I quit smoking, I was 31 and I had a come to Jesus moment with myself with that last cigarette and that pack of cigarettes. And I actually spoke to it. And it was all a story. Because it is all the story we tell ourselves. And I told myself, I'm digressing here because it's a little funny. You know, Chris Rock?
Yeah, I know Chris Rock. I don't know him, but I mean, yeah, I
I
know
know,
him.
I don't know either. Chris Rock has this bit where he's like, it's not a gun problem, it's a bullet problem. And if bullets cost $500, I'm gonna come shoot your ass as soon as I can afford it. Like he has this whole thing, right? I looked at that cigarette and I was like, I'm not addicted to cigarettes, I'm addicted to buying cigarettes. What if I quit buying cigarettes, but I'm allowed to bum or I'm allowed to smoke if anyone offers? I'm allowed to smoke, I just can't buy cigarettes. That's how I quit smoking. And to this day, I ended up having cigarettes after that. But to this day, I've never bought a pack of cigarettes. But I needed a friend of mine was fundraising for a half marathon. At this point in my life, I'd only run 6 miles most. And she was like, hey, will you join my leukemia I don't remember what it was for. It was for somebody's fundraiser. I was like, no way. And then I was like, I can't run that much. And then I was like, but runners don't smoke. I mean, smoker. Yeah. I was like, what I need something to keep me from smoking. So I signed up for a half marathon. The rest of the world saw it as girl with MS ran a half marathon. But actually my story was I gotta do something to keep me from smoking and feel good about myself. So then I ran this half marathon and I was like, oh, I really like that. I wonder if, and I realized I was good at it. I did it and I was good at it. And it was my MS story. So I did start kind of tying the two together. Before I knew it, fast forward, that was 2010. 2015, I ran the Boston and the New York Marathon for the National MS Society. I was invited to be the guest speaker at the Boston Marathon for the team. I
Wow.
raised $7,500. Um, and this idea of movement becoming my medicine is really where my mantras became move it or lose it. My mantra became I'm going to plant my feet all over this planet as long as I can. Movement is medicine. And I really developed this more of a relationship with my body of constantly thanking my body. And I'm very aware. I don't think I ever would have become active like this had it not been for the MS. I think the MS actually put me on this path. And you hear that about a lot of people that we get inspired by, like something happened. But my thing was, I didn't run my first race till 12 years after my diagnosis. So what I'm always trying to get through to people is, it's never too late to start. Like I didn't run my first race till I was 31, you know? And so, but I definitely, yeah. There are some people that when I see them in life now, they're always like, "How are you doing with your MS?" And I'm like, I don't even really own it anymore. It's become just a story I tell. I'm not ignorant to the point that, sure, down 20 years from now, who knows? Maybe it does come back. But you know what? If it does, I've lived, I've lived my life, and I have no regrets in my choices. I have been med free since 2010 and don't have any regrets with that either. Um, but my story is my unique story. Everybody has their own journey and everybody has their own healing that needs to happen. And what works for one doesn't always work for another. But what I like to show people is at least I can show there's hope because I have my story of hope, right? Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I, I ran with it.
Yes. So something that you mentioned a couple times is having a relationship with yourself, with your body.
Yeah.
Many people don't have a relationship with their bodies. Even myself, I'm trying to look for what is the relationship I can have with my own body.
Mhm.
What does a relationship with your body look like? Is it self-talk? Is it
Mm.
movement? Is it rest?
It's all the above. I'd say I think my relationship started because it was such an unhealthy relationship. And I wanted to change, feeling like a prisoner within myself. Like I didn't understand how other people weren't suffering the way I felt like I was suffering. I didn't understand why, like, she's overweight, but she's happy. Like, how am I know people look at me and think I'm skinny, but I'm not happy. Like, why am I not happy in my body? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, there was all these things that I didn't understand why I thought the way I did, that made I was making myself miserable. Nobody was calling me names, nobody was making fun of me, but I couldn't escape whatever was going on inside of me. And it there's not like a quick fix, and there wasn't a therapist involved. It was just, I think once I started to give myself permission that maybe I can change, and um the endorphins you get from exercise, and like there's just ripple effects to things. And so I think because of the MS, I mean, I kind of cheated. I had no choice but to be aware of my body. Like when all of a sudden you wake up and you can't get out of bed because your leg is paralyzed, and like you're 26 years old and you're living in San Diego and you drive a stick and now you can't drive because you can't use the clutch. You can't not know that. It's that.
Yeah.
I was living with two girls at the time, and I was like, y'all have to come here because I cannot wiggle my toes. I need someone else to see this, you know? So we all say we don't know what we have until it's gone. And then once we get it back, we're like, oh my God. So whether it was like feeling good, like I remember driving down the road one day and realizing like the, the inner negative monologue was quiet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just realized I don't hear negative, but I can't tell you exactly like one thing I did. It was just like a variety. I think just starting to um, decide that I didn't want to feel that way anymore. Like, what can I do? Like, is it read a new book? Is it travel? And it's like using yourself like a science experiment, like to see what ends up feeling good, to see what you enjoy. I think that we see a lot of other people doing things. And so, unfortunately, we think if we do that, that's the answer. But that doesn't mean it's the answer. That's why I never tell people, like, do what I do. I just say, whatever you're curious about, whatever you wonder, like, that's for you. And you got to apply yourself to that. And then thank your monkey suit, like, you are a living breathe. So MS is a disease where it's an autoimmune disease. So the way autoimmune works, it means something within yourself is attacking within yourself. That's autoimmune. So the way I would look at my body was I had antibodies that were attacking my myelin sheath. And if they attack it enough, it gets to the nerve. And that's when you see it, the nervous system controls the whole body. It's all the messaging in the body. And that's when things can go haywire. What I don't like doing is trying to fight that. What I decided I was going to do was like, and I don't know where this comes from, but I was like, okay, if we're in this together, we're in this together. I know people out there like I understand fighting cancer, fighting this. I don't speak that way. I don't think we're here to fight cancer. I don't think fighting anything is actually the answer. It is, okay, I've got this. What can I do now to make every day as best as possible while I have this without the certainty it's going to do anything? But at least I'm showing up to do something that I think maybe can do a something, and then we'll see where it goes. So when people go, how'd you heal yourself from MS? I go, I didn't know I was. I didn't wake up one day like, I'm fighting this MS. We're going to get this.
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. And then afterwards, after every yoga class I've ever taken, and they say namaste at the end, I always say, thank you, body. I know it sounds silly, but I always just say it. I'm always just like, okay, that was awesome. Thank you, legs.
So was it's just really like bringing up cancer. I mean, I hear a lot of people saying, battling, fighting against cancer, that someone's battling cancer, but I hate it when I hear someone lost to cancer and they've
No,
gone. I really
me
because
too.
I don't know how you feel about it, and I haven't really spent time to think it over. But just it's something that's bothered me when I would read so and so lost to cancer. It's like
No,
I never felt that was anything helpful at all. What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree with you. To remove ourselves from the health world, I say the same thing when someone says, I got fired or I quit. Because you walked away from something that no longer served you anymore. You didn't quit anything. You didn't give up on anything. The job wasn't working for you anymore. The boss wasn't positive for you anymore. You were done with this negative aspect, or you were given another opportunity. Like, there's always something else. You didn't quit. I just hate when people say, I quit, unless it was like, I mean, I don't know. There's just so many other words you can use. And when someone says I got fired, I'm like, well, did you do something like really, 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 really wrong that like you just were hoping you weren't going to get caught and you got caught? Because if that's the case, you got fired.
Yeah.
Other than that, you know what I'm saying? Other than that, don't be so hard on yourself. You did not get fired. This is the universe going, it's time for you to move on to something else. You're being given a window of opportunity. You're not, like I have lost my house. Everyone that tells me, "Oh, I, you're so lucky you went to Hawaii." I go, I was given a 30-day notice 23 days after I moved into the house. That is not luck. When people go, even like the MS story, like me being, "Oh, you're so lucky you went to overseas to study for the semester." No, I was very depressed and I became resourceful for myself of what can I do because of this. Even this journey being in New Zealand and on traveling, I road tripped the whole United States before I came here. The inspiration behind this was it is really hot in Florida in the summer. And I did not have central air conditioning
Oh man.
in the little unit I was living in. And hurricanes are a thing. And I ride a moped, a scooter, and so last summer 2023, I was at a red light and I was cooking into my seat. I was like praying for the light to turn green. I needed some wind on me.
You needed
my
like a
my my legs were like melting into the
oh
black seat. I
man.
was like, and I literally said outside of myself, I am not living here next summer. There's no freaking way. I'm not doing it next summer. And then I thought, well, I don't have multiple homes. How can I live other places if I don't own multiple homes? And I got curious and creative. And I created this lifestyle out of the knowing I no longer wanted to be in that heat. So going back to the cancer and the fighting it and the this, I oftentimes, and I'm not going to say this is why people say this, but I'm saying there are some people like this. And this happens in everything, whether it's at your job, in your relationship. People go into victimization mode. People want people to feel bad for them. I'm not saying this is everybody, but like even with my MS journey, there were people that I met through over the years that I was just like, gosh, I wish you didn't see it all this way, like how can we look at it better? And so if you're saying you lost yourself, you lost to cancer, that's saying that cancer was better than you, bigger than you, more deserving than you. What? That doesn't make any sense. It just meant you gave life your best shot and you showed up for yourself the best way you knew, given the circumstances. I mean, the reality is none of us have a blueprint on how to handle all the shit that's handed to us. We are making mistakes and learning as we go. And there's a lot of times we look back, gosh, I wish I had done it this way if I only knew, but you didn't know. I mean, I have a lot of hiccups that could have been avoided had I not done certain things, but I didn't know. I still needed to learn. So I think we're all just learning, but yeah, it is not fair to say we quit. I don't know.
Because I remember
Yeah.
hearing that as a kid, someone who, a family friend or somebody hearing that they lost their battle to cancer. And I was thinking as a child, well, and also kind of referencing what you said, does that mean that cancer is bigger? And a part of me was
Yeah.
thinking, well, if they lost to cancer, does that mean that they could have fought even more or like they didn't fight enough? So just as a child, just thinking like, uh, what's the point of even fighting? But I guess just changing the narrative, changing the story, at least for oneself, I think can be more graceful in the approach
Well,
and
it's compassion, like
compassionate. Yes.
grace with yourself, compassion, like um I won't drop an F bomb because I don't know. I drop F bombs. Can I
You can
drop an
drive.
F bomb?
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So George Carlin, my name's Carlin, and I introduced myself Carlin like George. And then I laugh, and then I get to meet people and have a funny laugh and see what they're. It's a whole thing. He one of his famous quotes is, um, "Fighting for peace is like fucking for virginity. It just doesn't work." You don't fight wars to make, I mean, I get it. But like it could be resolved compassionately. It could be a sit down discussion where we come to an agreement of like, let's actually work together on this. So when we're up against a disease, when we're up against whatever, like communication and really like looking at things for what they are and knowing you're doing your best, you're never going to lose if you're doing it. It might not go in the outcome you hoped for, but that doesn't mean you lost. It just means it just is. I mean, again, that's part of the, and then we're going deep down a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
where I'm like, my friends died on time. I didn't know it was going to be their last breath. They didn't know it was going to be their last breath. Every day, most people mourn. Here's another thing I do. A lot of people mourn. Oh, 10 years ago today, Margaret died. Ah. You know what I do every Margaret? I call it Margaret Day. I made it an official holiday for me. It's her, I celebrate her death day every year. 27, 28 years into it, I still do it. Still Margaret Day. She died July 26, 1998. And every Margaret Day, I do something to honor being alive because she never knew it was the day she was going to take her last breath. And none of us ever know if it's going to be the day we take our last breath. So I celebrate her death day. I made it a holiday. On her birthday, I kind of am like, oh, okay, cool. It was your birthday. I don't know. I don't really think about her birthday. I'm not like happy heavenly birthday like some people do. I'm like, okay, sure. But why? They're still alive. Our friends are always still with us. Like their spirit and their soul are really also with us. And that's a whole other thing too, is like I've had amazing sessions with spiritual mediums that have brought all my friends to me. They've helped me make some big decisions in my life. Like I really do have angels with me. So I go through life believing and trusting in that as well. And so that's they didn't die
Yeah.
in like vain, you know? So it's a little, maybe my way of living is a little delusional, but it's a better place to live. Might as well live delusionally. Might as well have the glass half full than the glass half empty and see where it takes you rather than the other way around?
Yeah, and what I love is that you're totally living by that. You're seeing where life takes you, and you're going on these adventures. And you mentioned right a few moments ago that you was it? Did you have a road trip all over the U.S. or
Yeah.
you did that?
Yeah.
Now you're in another country on the other side of the world. You're all the way
Yeah.
in
And
New
I
Zealand.
did not know it was all going to happen. When I left Florida, I only had, so I'm using the platform Trusted Housesitters. Really cool platform that links up homes and people all over the world that most of them need a pet sitter. But some of them just need house sitters. But basically, no money. There's a one-time payment. It covers your background check, and other than that, there's no money. And it's basically like Airbnb for pets. But instead of paying for the Airbnb, I go stay at your house and get to live at your house and eat your food or whatever you're open me doing. And I love on your pets, and I live for free. So I when I decide I love that it's called Trusted House Sitters because it's based on the trust between, the homeowner and the sitter that I trust you in my home just to be with my animals. But I looked at it as, well, I'm going to take this trust to a new level because I moved out of my place and I put everything into a small storage unit and I only left with one sit confirmed. But that first sit was a month in Georgia on a lake. It was in this place in Ackworth, Georgia. And while I was there, I confirmed my second sit. And then I had a friend in Colorado who saw what I was doing. And she said, my vision was I was going to go up the East Coast and try and hit New England for New Year, for like fall colors. I saw myself driving up, not around.
Yeah.
But all of us, and I'm here in Georgia, and a friend in Colorado who lives in a beautiful part of Colorado, Buena Vista. But I'd never been there before because she was a friend from Denver who'd moved there. Said, hey, we're leaving for 2.5 weeks. We need a cat sitter. We see you're doing this. You just want to come hang at our house and love on our cats while we travel. I was like, I don't know if I want to go all the way to Colorado. I was like, if I go to Colorado, I might as well. And so by her coming in and inviting me to her home and me saying yes, that ended up being the game changer. Because because Colorado is like home to me. I lived there for 8.5 years, and really and truly nature was what I was after. I was This whole road trip was I wanted to be out in nature. I wanted to be hiking. It wasn't about going to the fancy restaurants and spending money on drinks and whatever. I just you don't get that in Florida. It's hot. We don't have mountains. And I literally had moved from Colorado where I got really vested in hiking and climbing mountains and all that. And I really missed it. So when she created that invite and I said yes, universe said okay, game on. And I was able to map out for the next 4 months consecutive sits all over the country back to back. It took work. I had to,
Yeah.
I had to be on top of it. I had to have interviews with people. I had to confirm it. I had to map it, but I ended up doing a 14,000-mile road trip by myself and circling the whole United States. And and I ended up getting to nature right on time. All the leaves were turning in Oregon. And when I got there, I did Yosemite, I did Yellowstone, I did Crater. I didn't even know Crater Lake National Park existed. I did Crater Lake. That might be the coolest national park I've ever gone to. And I feel very proud of myself and very fortunate. And I met so many amazing people along the way
So do you have like a vlog or a YouTube or because I mean it sounds like you're on the go. It sounds
all the
like you're
time.
you're meeting people, you're
I
hanging
mean, I've
out
just
and
been sharing everything. I kind of maybe messed up by not putting all this on YouTube, but I've been sharing everything on Facebook and Instagram. Um and but more unfortunately stories that have disappeared. So I'm starting to get better at creating reels. Um so the answer is yes and no. Like people can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and I definitely post stuff, but I've been a little I did not put everything on YouTube. But I'll be honest, it's kind of in alignment with me. Like I've never lived this life because I needed anyone to care whether I was doing this or not. I've done it all selfishly for myself and the people I got to meet along the way face to face and like the present moment of it all. And yes, there are stories I have shared because the stories I get most excited sharing are the synchronicity moments I have with strangers along the way because I've just met so many people and I learned so many people's stories. Um, but I haven't truly capitalized on it the way I could have, and maybe shoulda, coulda, woulda. A lot of people that's what they do now.
but it's a
But
good
I
thing
I also
in a
pride
way.
myself on having just been authentic with it.
Yeah. Like something that I really admire and that I can appreciate from your story is that you give yourself permission.
Yeah.
You don't wait because there's I mean I love people I meet so many people but sometimes they have to have permission only when hold on I need the right angle from my phone and that's cool you want to do that that's great but at the same time just give yourself permission to go out there and have some fun even if there's
Yeah.
phone or no phone or no phone or if you have no space to record it's like oh I can't go on this trip I have no memory or I have no more space on my iCloud like so what just go and I'm
I
hearing that
know.
I love it that's something that
But I
I
will say though, I am in my own way on things in life. Like I still have my own fears. I'm not perfect, but yes, I as a coach, when I work with people, a lot of what I am is a mirror. And one of my ways of explaining the work that I do is I give you permission to give yourself permission. That's a lot of that's literally half of what it is me. Like my brother called me the other day and he just went through a break. He just, ended a relationship and there was this trip he wants to go on with his buddies snowboarding in Japan. And he had been talking about this trip for like a year, but because of his relationship, he like put it off. He hadn't booked it yet, all this stuff. And now it's like down to the wire. And he texts me and he goes, my brother and I are really different. I mean, we get along, but we're like, he's not he doesn't live the way I live, you know? And he goes, hey, should I go to Japan? I go, are you wanting me to tell you yes so that you can say yes because you already know I'm going to say
Yes.
yes. Like, do you want me to say yes so you can say yes? Because there you go. The answer is why wouldn't you go? Like, you got time. You could, it's a flight. Go with your buddies, make memories that'll last forever. Like, why wouldn't you do it? If you can do it, you know? And he was like, okay. And then it was really cool because as his big sister, even though he's 44, but like as his big sister, you know, we spent all day going back and forth. And I was talking to him about his flights, like helping him do things and like talking things out with him. And it was special for us to like have that together. 'Cause it's a big deal that he's taking this trip, you know? Um, and so I always tell people, like, what are you not doing because you think you need someone to do it with? Or what are you not doing because you want to do it you want to do it, but you're scared to do it by yourself, or like you just need that something like, hi, my name's Carlyn. Let me help you work through this and see where I can help you. Give yourself that permission, have that confidence, see what roadblocks you're coming up against, and like let's rework those roadblocks because a lot of it is just the story, and it's usually the what if story that you're creating. And when I not to when I was first when I was studying overseas in that college story, my parents actually had never traveled overseas. That was the first time they traveled overseas was to come visit me in London. So it was kind of neat, you know? And but anyways, because you never know. That's another thing. It's like our decisions have ripple effects, and like
Yes.
we get to contribute in other ways that we don't even know are going to be considered contributions. Like we just don't know. But anyways, parents' jobs are to worry. That's just what they do, you know. And a lot of times, us, the younger generation, sees things differently. But when I was approaching graduation, I didn't know exactly. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but then there was a part of me that wanted to be a flight attendant. I was like, I don't know if I want to. I was studying journalism, and I was like, but I don't want to throw my mom under the bus because she wouldn't say this now. Well, actually, she does sometimes. My mom is a what if person sometimes. Sometimes. And my mom said to me, well, what if your MS acts up while if you're a flight attendant? And that's a fair thing to say. But man, did she push that wrong button in me. And I was like, how dare you try to tell me that the MS is going to act up if I pursue something? We will cross that bridge when we get to it, you know? And that's just kind of, I don't know, I get a little triggered by people trying to put like the no on things without us knowing if there's a no. You know, like I'm like, why create the barrier if the barrier doesn't exist yet? And so yeah, I think that's that permission piece of being open to trying. And I created a reel that I sent you the other day, and I don't know if you heard the word. That's Elizabeth Gilbert. I found this great 1 minute like speech that she shared about the power of chasing curiosity versus following your passion. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to like, it has to be your passion and follow your passion. But what if you don't know your passion? And then you're like feeling down about yourself because you haven't had that spark of knowing what your passion is. Well, that's because passion doesn't fuel you, curiosity does. Curiosity is what gets you to go, I wonder if I could live in other people's houses and move out of mine. I wonder if this platform, if there's still people on it. Let me go check if people have houses for sale. Oh, people are for rent, whatever. Like curiosity is what I think starts that permission slip a little bit. And then it's the moment you decide to go, okay, I'll give this a go and see what happens. And then 9 times out of 10, if it's in alignment to you and it's part of your growth and it's meant for you, it'll not only work out, it'll work out better than you thought it would. And that's the whole risk reward stuff, you know?
And seeing you, there's been a lot of rewarding moments that you've experienced. But unfortunately,
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that many people, and I also fall for this, is when there's a moment where I can be curious. There's that saying, curiosity killed the cat. So it's like, okay, maybe I won't be curious because I don't want to be like the cat. But like you're saying right now, there's the risk. You're aware there might be a risk in your curiosity, but hey, look, there could also be a reward. So don't chop it off right away. Just explore that curiosity, and I think that's something that's beautiful.
Do you have an example in your own life right now of something you're curious about, but that like you've thought about maybe trying, or I don't know, just anything that you might want?
Pod,
And it doesn't have to be big, or it can be whatever. Anything you're just curious about that you haven't tried yet?
podcast. Well, I mean, well, podcasting is an example of something that
Yeah.
I have been curious. Actually, as a kid, I was interested in doing journalism, but just my idea was just going around the world, just having a little tape
Me
recorder
too.
and just interviewing people. And if people listen to it, great. If no one listens to it, so what? But there was this curiosity and also just taking pictures and just hearing people's stories. I love a good story. I love a good book. But for me to engage with the person or with
Mm.
the author, that's even more fascinating for me than just reading the book. I just love to have that personal connection, but also that curiosity of, man, Ryan, it's like an imposter syndrome. Like you didn't go to school to learn how to speak all nice and fancy, and you don't know how to interview people. There's like this self-sabotage that's going on in my mind. And so for a while, well, it's partly true, yeah, that I don't have those skills, but then there's a point where the curiosity, it's too much, and I can't get rid of it. I can't get it out of my mind because it's going somewhere. And yes, I don't have all the skills, I don't have all the talents, but who the fuck cares? It's like I'm gonna do what I feel that my body, my heart, my soul, my mind is going towards this direction. Might as well open the door and see where it leads. And if it's a dead end, it's a dead end. But hey, I'm never gonna know unless I open that damn door. And here I am doing podcasting.
I'm excited for you to go back and watch yourself explain that and share that, because you just lit up like a Christmas tree. You were like a little kid, like you just described it. Like that's it. And I mean, I admire you because I've talked about starting a podcast for years, and I've been overwhelmed, and I even have the title in my head and I have the idea, but I haven't done it yet. So like I don't follow through on everything. I have a ton of ideas that I've been sitting on, and I've been like scared of the responsibility or scared of the commitment and consistency or blah, 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 blah. But you nailed it. And that is when the curiosity is loud enough, it's not work. It's so that was the whole point of that reel that I shared, was the way she described people ask me very often, like, how did you move through your fear of this? And you're so brave, or whatever the way they see it. And I'm like, no, I was just that curious that the fear disappeared. I was that wanting to see if my life could feel like this, or I could live like that, or whatever it is, or can I? Yeah, I'm not talented. Like this doesn't come from talents. I don't cook well. I'm not an artist. Like this is just me going, we'll play with what I am good at doing, is like playing with possibility, and it looks different for everybody, but you nailed it the way you just described it. So now it's just, now that you have that awareness, going into your own life and going, okay, what other things am I curious about that I can maybe say, I'm ready, I'm willing to give this a shot and see where it goes.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying
Give
the
yourself
ride.
permission.
I'm enjoying the ride, but I had to give myself permission.
Yeah.
That's key because
When
I
did you
mean,
start this podcast?
I started, well, actually, because we were discussing this even before we started recording. Was
Yeah.
I was in a cult, and
Oh, right.
actually, people didn't want to listen. Like when I would tell them, like, "Hey, these are some of the abuses that happened. These are some of the tragedies that I saw within the cult." It was always, "Shut the hell up, Ryan!" Like, or like, "Keep your mouth shut," or maybe you deserve that treatment. So Me being me, I mean, born and raised in LA, I come from a Salvadorian family. There is a lot of, uh, I don't want to, there is a lot of no bullshit.
Mm.
Say it how it is. Say what you mean what you say, and get to the point. Because then with my family, it's like just say it, and it was hard for me to say it, and that would frustrate my family, and I know them, but because I was in the cult for so long, also this feeling that I need to protect them, but something, and going back to you is the awareness that self love is okay. It's okay to take care of yourself. If someone's being a dick, if someone's being a jerk, leave them. If someone
Yeah.
gets offended, let them be offended. But I'm not saying anything offensive. I'm just saying my story. So
Right.
what led me to doing the podcast was just having enough and just saying, you know what, I want to tell my story in a safe place. And from there, I just felt like it's not going to go anywhere. I was already like doubting it, but still that curiosity just kept going and just kept nagging, and I just couldn't. It wouldn't go away. So then it decided like a snowball, it just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I started having guests, and it's like, what's happening? It's just like when you press the start button to like the car wash. Once you start that button, everything goes in motion, and then you get your car from one side and it goes to the other side, and there I was.
And yep, it's it's why I'm in New Zealand talking to you on your podcast. We're both at a stage in the journey of pressing the button that brought us here, like, and it is just remembering yeah, it's so true. We just have to, I mean, I'm sitting here going, Carlyn, you just have to take the first, there's a lot of things I still need to take the first, I want
Yep.
to take the first step on, and yeah, that's the same answer for pretty much everything. And
But that's cool that you have the awareness that you want to take the first step on something, because I feel that when you stop dreaming or stop having that curiosity, you're just living the mundane life of
yes,
just going to work and coming home, being grouchy.
I know. And so many people, because of the phones and video and things that keep us like sedentary in front of a screen, um, aren't out there. Like, magic is everywhere, but you have to go out. I mean, things happen online too. I'm not like, we met online, like things,
Yeah.
magic does happen. We still, like, we haven't met in person, even though we're
Mm.
just on Zoom right now, even though it
Yeah.
feels like we're in person. So I can't hug you. But so I'm not criticizing, things, but it's fascinating being who I am with this mission I have of human connection and literally creating a way for people to see each other and smile at each other. That we have such a loneliness epidemic. I always say we live in a world more connected but more disconnected than ever. And when I say, when you show up for you, who and what you need will show up for you too. And you showing up for you, it means following that curiosity, taking first steps, going a different direction than you always drive, saying hi to a person in line at the coffee shop, like wearing that bold, funky shirt you never wear because you think it's too crazy, but you really just want to wear it. Like, wear the damn shirt.
Yeah.
And whatever it is. And because when we have it takes more energy to be I what did I say in one of the I wrote a blog that's called Five Lessons from Losing My Front Teeth in 2014, that went a little viral, and it still lives at strangerstofriends.com. So you can go, I still have blogs, some old blogs you can still read. And I tweeted it to Brene Brown because I was reading her book, The Gift of Imperfection, when I had my accident. I mean, it was all crazy. And I learned her take on it was, vulnerability is the new black. It's cool to share your stuff. And I was like, yeah, like when we just show up and be real, that is what that's the secret sauce, you know? We're showing up for ourselves and being real and doing the things that bring us joy and uh whatever that looks like to you. Like there's no like it's whatever that looks like to you. And then that's the energy that creates more abundance in your life. And abundance, like I tell people, abundance shows up in my life in so many different ways. It is not dollar signs necessarily, you know, like every now and then it's dollar signs. I actually just was put myself out there yesterday and reached out to my Facebook community because a lot of people reach out all the time telling me they're living vicariously through me and they're inspired and it's wonderful and I love it all. But I've hit a situation where I could use a little extra actual dollars in
Yes.
my life. And so I said, "Hey, who wants to play and be a part of this journey with me? Let's actually I want to create some meaningful fun ways if you contribute financially that I can contribute back to you and I'll mail you a postcard from New Zealand and I have a friend that's already said he'll pay for half my bungee jump if I get to Queenstown and jump off the bridge. I'm like, who wants to play?" And so I put that out there yesterday, and yeah, I've had 16 or 17 people reach out and financially, open their pocket to me for a little bit. But I, I just created an ask,
Yeah.
I just put myself out there and yeah, like the guests that you're attracting to your show like you attracted me by putting an ask out there. You didn't pay marketing dollars. You were like, I gotta make a podcast. You just followed your heart. You posted it on Threads. I don't even use Threads really. I don't even know how I found you, but I found you. And I was like, oh, well, I'm looking for ways to share my story. I'd love to share my story. And here we are. But all you did was put it out there, being you. We
And
put so much pressure on ourselves sometimes.
and that's true, the putting of the pressure, and there have been moments where I have the thread or tweet on draft because I'm afraid of putting it out there because it's like I don't know, just that story that I tell myself. Maybe I don't tell myself explicitly, but the feeling I have is no one's going to
Yeah.
respond, and it's like no, just put it out there. Just close your eyes and just press send and let it go. And
That's what
just
I did yesterday. Like it was a big deal for me to ask my community for money. You know, I'm not good at asking for money. It feels like I still have money issues. Like I don't know if it's a value thing. It's like, oh, I don't want to ask them for money. I don't want to, but actually, all y'all living vicariously through me, I could use a little help right now with this whole you want to keep the stories coming, I'll give you the
mm,
stories, but I'd love a little energy exchange.
yeah.
And I'm grateful for those. And it's gonna be so much fun to mail postcards to people, everybody. Like I'm
Oh,
gonna have fun with it,
oh, that's exciting. I love postcards.
$25, you get a postcard from New Zealand.
Oh, all right.
But anyways, I'm just saying, like, how do you have fun with these risky things? How can we put play with it as opposed to, I'll tell you, I had a meetup in Denver. I had like 4,000, I grew it to about 4,000 members, over about 2.5, 3 years in Denver. I called it Strangers to Friends. And I basically facilitated monthly events where I invited people to step away from the screens, show up and be seen. And I partnered with local businesses. And I just said, no judgment or rejection is allowed. Everybody had to wear name tags, first names only. I led with open-ended questions. I got so much joy from it. I loved it. When I tell you the night that I was creating this meetup, and I had to hit publish, I never get headaches. Like I don't get headaches. I had the worst migraine. Like my body literally got sick because I was so nervous to put this concept of mine out into the world of just I know this is I I want this for people, like, but what if nobody wants to come? Like what do I do if nobody joins my meetup? And my first meetup was 5 people, and that was it. That was just, I got so excited for those five people. They were like my favorite five people in the whole world, you know? And then it just, and then I just kept believing in it and putting it to I ended up starting one in Boulder, and I ended up, growing it to what it was. And but it was all, but that night that I hit publish, I thought like, do I need to go to the hospital? Like I was like, it was anxiety, it was fear, it was that ego of mine. It was all the bad stuff. And that sabotage is real.
Yeah.
It's real.
So now I wanted to shift just a little bit because you are also a founder of is it Strangers to Friends?
Yes. So strangers to friends. Let's go back to circa 2009.
Okay.
Let's bring it back a bit. So no iPhones were invented yet. No apps were invented. How about that? Or yeah, it wasn't out yet. No, there was social media, but not like it is today. And what had happened in 2008 was the market crashed. And when the market crashed, a lot of people lost their jobs. So I've always been very intuitive. I've always been a people person. I've always been curious. I've always been an old soul. I've always was friends with my parents' friends. I like talking to old people. I've always been the friendly one. I just wasn't maybe as loud as gregarious, but I've always been that person bringing people together and being friends with everybody and whatnot. So when the market crashed, I had been for my career at that time, I was a travel nurse recruiter. I worked at a really large company and I placed nurses in hospitals around the country, sorry. But my background was public relations and marketing. I'd worked in PR and marketing for several years before I went into recruiting. And so I realized that I was let go, but I wanted to be let go. I was miserable at my job. So it was okay. But I realized the one thing you don't have when you don't have a job is you don't have a business card. And this was before things that you could like connect with people. So I was like, well, I'm going to make myself a Carlyn card. This is how it all started. And I go to Kinko's, which was what it was called back then, to
What's
go
it?
make myself. Kinko's is now FedEx,
Is it? I don't
right?
even
Are you
know.
joking? Yeah, I'm dating myself. Any of your old people will know what Kinko's is. And so I went to go make business cards for myself. At this point, I had no website. I didn't have anything. And I was like, okay, I'll treat it kind of like a resume. I'll give myself a job title and I'll put all my whatever. So I made a card. I put my home address on it. I decided to include this super long URL that was the donation site for my MS 50-mile walk. So it was like ms.org/ blah blah blah, and I put that on there. And then I was like, what is my title? I don't know what I title. I heard the words, you turn strangers into friends. I heard it. It became a thing. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So I made a card that said Carlyn Shaw, turning strangers into friends. My home address, in case you wanted to break into my house. I don't know why I put my home address on there because that's all I had back then, right? You put that on your resume, my URL to the MS thing, and called it a day. And that was the beginning of me. When I would first hand them out, I had to understand, like, why am I handing these out? Like, what does this lead to? It just leads to me. And I was like, well, I know that we meet everybody for a reason, but I don't know why I'm meeting the person when I'm meeting the person. We never really know why we're meeting somebody. So then I added the tagline, the journey of friendship begins with two strangers. And when I would meet people, I'd have like women and men would respond a little differently. Women would be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, you get paid for this. I'm like, no, it's just me, and men would be like, is this like a dating thing or something? I'm like, no. And I would always say, but I don't know why we're meeting. And you're going to hand me a business card that says you're a engineer, and I don't need an engineer, and I don't really want to message you at work. So here's my personal Hotmail account. So if you want to connect, you can reach out to me because you're going to give me your card, and I don't need any of that contact information. So that was the first piece of it, was me. And then I was having that moment with people, like kind of presenting that idea to them. And then it was the long URL with the MS. And at this stage, I really didn't know anybody with MS. It wasn't a part of conversation on the daily. I didn't meet that many people. I still didn't know that many people with it at that age. Um, and out of the woodworks, like people just started being like, oh, well, what's this like website? What's it for? And when I was 19, I was diagnosed with MS and I do a walk and did it. And they'd be like, my mom has it and I don't have anyone to talk to about it. Or my brother was just diagnosed, or can I put you in touch with my best friend? And it was like out of the woodworks, people just started having a relationship with MS. And I called my mom. I was like, Mom, something crazy is happening. Like, I think the universe is like sending me a message of some sort. So that's how my awareness. So I eventually bought strangerstofriends.com. I started it as a blog. Then I started a Facebook group sharing memes and stories, and and then I got to eventually got to Colorado, and strangers to friends after my bike accident, and I saw the power of sharing my teeth loss story. That really is what really took it to the next level. Was when Brene Brown retweeted it, people from all over the country started finding my story and sharing with me the shame and the struggles they'd had of not having teeth and their journey with it. And one of the women that reached out to me lived in Denver. And I said, well, and she had 18 years, never told anybody, softball accident, and had a lot of shame. And I said, well, we got to meet for Taco Tuesday and you got to take your teeth out with me. And sure. And like, I was like, that's how I play. And sure enough, I convinced her to do that. That is how Kim and I became friends. And I watched the ripple effect of that with her and our friendship, and we're still friends to this day. And I realized I need to do more. There's more for me to do. And that is what inspired me to start the meetup. And then fast forward when COVID hit that and I left Colorado, everything I built just came to an end. It was like the end of it. It was the end of a chapter. I tried to get people in the area to take over the meetup for me. Nobody wanted to take it over because they're like, it's not you here doing it. It's not the same. And I just kind of felt like it ran its course, and I had to kind of grieve with it all. Okay, Carlyn, you left your legacy, you made your mark, and now it's time to see where to take this. And that's when I saw, I was now living in a brand new city, making new friends, like trying to figure out who I was and where my place in the world was. And I had this whole story with this shirt that I owned that said, whoever smiled first wins. And a little backstory was I had befriended the woman I actually bought it from online. She saw me on LinkedIn wearing it, and she lives in San Diego. And she reached out to me, and she was no longer selling them. And I had said to her, hey, one day, like, can I like make this shirt? And so she had told me I could. She didn't own the words, and it was one of those ideas. It was one of those curiosity ideas I just thought about and thought about. And it was kind of in a selfish way to get back to me. I needed a way to show up again. I didn't know what to do. So November 2020, I just went to printful.com and I created a little online store with a couple shirts that said whoever smiles first wins, ordered some for myself, and then just started sharing with friends and family like, hey, I have this if anybody wants it. And just started making, and then like I had my own teeth story with it because these ended up having to be taken out March 2021. I went through another toothless episode because I got a gum infection behind the back of my implants. And so I had to go through the whole thing over again. And it was crazy because now I was wearing a shirt that said whoever smiles first wins, and I had no teeth. So, and it was like a whole new level because I was selling the shirt too. So it was crazy the way the universe made that happen too. And so it's just kind of been this spiraling snowball effect of well, I started selling the shirts online. I ended up going to work as a server to kind of get back to me. I left I was working in sales remotely 2021 and I was miserable. And I was like, I need people. And St. Pete was really coming back to life and new restaurants were popping. So I went to go open up a brand new restaurant and killed it, like so much fun, so much money. And I asked him, I was like, hey, I know it's not really the uniform, but would you be okay if I wore my black t-shirt that says whoever smiles first wins while I work? And they were like, sure.
Yeah.
the conversations, the connections I was making, that's what encouraged me to go join an entrepreneurial group. When I for the next step, I ended up meeting becoming a part of this incredible group of women in St. Pete. I ended up partnering with a dentist office, and they're the ones that got me printing them in color, different colors for their Invisalign Day, and I was promoting the power of a smile. And when I started printing those in person, that's when I realized they were selling a lot faster. People wanted them when they met me and they learned the story and they could feel it and touch it versus like this online store. So I'm proud to say I ended up printing a bunch, selling them. I ended up starting what were called pop-up smile swaps. So I started partnering with some local businesses, and I was like, I'll bring my shirts to your store. I'll tell people where I'm at. People can come, we can learn from each other. And when I did this road trip, I brought shirts with me the whole time on the road, and I did smile swaps all over the country. So now there's shirts all over the United States. And I like to think I left a trail of connection and smiles, and this idea of, first of all, human connection. Second of all of us have a story behind our smile. You cannot look at anybody and assume their story, and everybody's story matters. And it's when we take the time to get to know the story behind someone's smile, as you know, the magic and the synchronicity happens. However, when you smile for yourself, you've already won. Hi, my name's Carlyn Shaw. Literally lost my smile from the inside out, shattered in a bike accident 10 years ago, already owned a t-shirt that said, whoever smiles first wins, started wearing my shirt without my teeth. It was like so many things came together. So this shirt, I say, is like your own little superhero cape for yourself. But when you're out in the world, trust me, people see it. Whether they see you and smile or not, they read it. I've had little kids come up to me and be like, I just want to tell you I love your shirt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like kids are paying attention. They don't know it's my shirt. They
Yeah.
just see a woman wearing a shirt. So I know it works because no one knows it's my shirt. And I know the way people respond to it and all the people wearing it. I love getting text messages and just messages to people. Oh my gosh, I was wearing your shirt the other day and I met this person and or blah 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 blah. And I've heard some really cool stories because it's a friendly competition and it's an invitation. And I like to put out, I think we should be, even if it doesn't create conversation, again, it comes down. Like I was hiking the other day here in New Zealand, and there was a family and like their maybe a daughter, I don't know. She was like at the end of the group in their line, hiking. And she's passing me and I'm wearing the shirt. And she just, maybe she was late teens. And she just looked at me and she just goes, and I look at her and I go, you won. And she freaking lit up when I said that. She just lit up. And I was like, if I did nothing else for this girl at the back of the line and her family hiking, like, I don't know what's going through her head right now, you know? But if in that moment I just gave her that, oh, I get teary eyed. It literally makes me teary eyed because I'm like, people need that. And, and I know it because it's my story. Like I need it. I've needed it over the years. Like I don't I do we create from our own journey. And so I just yes, if I challenge everyone out there to wear a smiles shirt and see how it feels and have a little fun.
And yes, we absolutely do create from our journeys. And what I'm seeing from you is you've gone through ups and downs, but the ripple effects, you have a way of not allowing them to go down a road of toxicity. It's like, yes, there have been trials, there have been struggles that you've been through, but still you have this optimism that you carry. And I think of the word optimism because you brought up the MS. You have this optimism. And I think that's something that's needed in this world, especially for those who may be in despair or in darkness and they feel that I'm unlovable or there's no hope. And then have a random stranger give them a smile. It can really, it can mean something.
Yeah, it really can. Like we all love sharing like the pay it forward stories and like all these little stories, but there's a lot of like unseen heroes out there that don't, these are just the people that like, we don't need to be, sometimes there's too much emphasis on like, well, my thing wasn't big enough that I did for somebody. Like I got to go big. I got to buy their lunch or something. No, maybe it's just going up and talking to somebody sitting by themselves and saying, I see you sitting by yourself. I'm just curious. Do you want any company? I do that. And I run the risk of someone going, no, 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 no. I'm actually just wanting to sit by myself. Okay.
Cool.
I honor that, but I just wanted to see because I'm by myself too. So if you want some company, I need a place to sit and was just coming over. 9 out of 10 times they invite me to the table. Oh, yeah. Gosh, sure. Sit with me. Why not? And I'm like, oh, and I just so you know, like I'm not asking for anything. I don't need anything. I'm by myself. You're by yourself. Might as well be
Mhm.
by ourselves together.
Yeah.
And like these little things that we can do. And again, you're right. It comes down to awareness. It goes kind of full circle.
Mhm.
I think awareness, um, I don't know how to increase your ability to have awareness. I haven't really thought about it. I don't know how to broaden the awareness, the presence of the being, just the presenceness or the way of looking at something from out a different perspective, or how to think outside the box on something, or what makes somebody see the opportunity versus not see the opportunity. I read an article years ago. I will never forget when Oprah had her magazine, and it was an article that she wrote about the power of luck. And she took two people and she basically planted them into the same day with the same opportunities. But one person considered themselves lucky and one person considered themselves unlucky. The person that was lucky found the $20 bill on the ground. The person that was lucky had the conversation with someone in the coffee shop that was like looking to partner with something or blah, blah, blah. The person that was lucky ended up, the person that believed in luck or whatever had the exact same opportunities that the person that didn't believe it, but this person that didn't see the $20 bill. And I think I don't know what that is, but there's something to be said about going out into the world and into your everyday life but what it's you've seen Dumb and Dumber. You ever seen Dumb and Dumber?
Yes, I've seen Dumb and Dumber.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, when Dumb and Dumber, he goes, so you mean there's a chance? It's like,
Yeah.
not in 1 million would I go out with you or something. And he's
Yeah.
like, so there's a chance.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying you necessarily have to be like that extreme with it, but
Yeah.
there is something to be said about believing, but what if there is something out there for me? What if, something could go right? And I think there is, I don't know if that's awareness, taking your blinders off, but I believe opportunities are everywhere for us to create more connection and play a role and have more magic happen and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of magic has happened with the podcasting and with going out there and pressing send on threads and you connecting and also Rena just going
I
back
know.
to
Shout out
Rena.
to Rena.
Shout out to Rena. um,
That's so fun. I can't wait to reach out to her.
well, now I want to take a little step back and now go to the closing question, which I ask to all my guests. And so, for you, what is your truth that heals?
What is my truth? I think my truth that heals is when I know my intentions. When I know when I'm showing up from a place of love. Um, like I said, not everything goes the way we plan, but I know I gave it my all, or my positive intention was there. And so I can sleep at night knowing that I applied myself in a way that I thought was moving me forward, even if it didn't go right and I had to learn from it. I can at least know my intention was good. I think that just that word truth is actually the most truth and trust kind of, there's a synergy between the two. And what I'm very passionate about is helping people trust themselves. Like, trust yourself. Your trusting yourself is you acknowledging your truth, and that's it. Like, there's not much more to it than that. Like, when I get that little voice in my head that gives me the idea, or I get into that space of anxiety where I don't know what to do, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And I have to pause and I'm like, okay, what feels light? What brings me joy? Where am I trying to force something? Where am I trying to have control? Where could I just relax? Like, what is it that I really want the outcome to be? I'll go through like all these questions in my head to like get to like, what is the truth of this? What is happening right now? Why am I spiraling out? And then I can get to this space of, okay, you got to this. Now the hard part is trusting it. You just got to trust it. And this is where rubber meets the road. And so most of my healing has come from trusting myself. It has usually never come from not trusting myself. The not trusting myself is the wrong job, the wrong really, and I say wrong, but you know what I mean, like the painful circumstances we get ourselves into because we didn't trust ourselves. We just didn't honor that truth within us, you know? So the truth really does heal. If you don't trust the person, the job, then you don't have a foundation. If you don't trust that person, there's really nothing to grow from. It's all kind of wobbly and fake. So the same thing kind of goes back to ourselves. Like, if I don't trust myself, how can I count on myself for anything, really? So a big part of this journey of mine, especially in this traveling I've been on the last 6 months, is really on a whole different level learning to trust myself. Because I in the past, a lot of times I've reached out to friends like, what do you think I should do? The second you open yourself up to opinions, you're going to get opinions.
Yes.
And they're not always what you want to hear, and then you get frustrated and this and this and this, and now you've got nagging people because they already gave you your opinion. Why aren't you listening to their opinion? Right? It's good to learn other perspectives if you really want them, but there is a truth in us very often. And yeah, it can get tricky when we're making up that truth and it's not really the truth and we're making up a story.
Yeah.
But like when you get that, there's always fine lines everywhere, you know?
Yes.
But just in terms of healing, um, being true to ourselves, I think, is the best place to start.
Well, thank you so much. I really love
Yeah,
this interview, your energy, and also your smile, the smile that you bring, and how you also bring smiles onto other people's faces. I love that because it's not only a smile. I think when someone is smiling authentically, it's not just the face, but I think it's also it reaches the heart, and I,
absolutely.
I
It's an
love that.
energy exchange. It's like, it's genuine.
Yes. And there's like fake creepy smiles. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that real that, it's those real
Real
ones.
smiles. So I will say, for a while there, I said I'm in the business of smile swapping. But now I say I'm in the business of creating eye contact. For that smile to be genuine, you see each other. And that's I think what's key is I see you, man. I see you. It is the only true universal language we really have. like it doesn't require sound,
Yeah.
it is a universal, and I'm proving that here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I don't know what language that girl speaks. There's a lot of expats running around here. I don't know who's from where.
Yeah.
And but I smiled at her. She smiled at me. I smiled back. The end.
Well, thank you for bringing your story and for bringing your smile onto the Truth That Heals podcast. And before we go, do you have a website or links that you would like to share with the
Yes.
audience?
Yes, absolutely. Well, my name is spelled Carlyn, Carlyn. My name is Carlyn Shaw. So my Instagram handle is Connect with Carlyn, and also Strangers to Friends, TO. And then you can go to carlynshaw.com. You can go to strangerstofriends.com. Both will link you to the website to go buy the shirt online. Both will link you to some articles I've written, learning more about working with me, whether it's just for a one call, we want to hop on and talk about life. Because I think, sometimes this idea of a coach, it's not just about coaching, it's just about connecting with somebody that thinks a little differently. And I see the power in just dropping into a conversation with somebody. So however I can serve, I would be open to anybody listening just to reach out and say hi. Let me know if I said anything that spoke to you. However I can be a part of the path.
Thanks so much, Carlyn. And it's been an honor having you on the podcast.
Thank you for letting me share with your community. I'm so grateful.